that should be us now. Hiya, my name is Tiana. I am a fitness enthusiast. I am an engineer, currently living in Sweden, but I'm from Northern Ireland. This video today, I kind of wanted to share about my journey to being diagnosed with endometriosis. So for anyone that isn't aware, endometriosis is a disease where the lining that should be growing, its tissue within the uterus, starts growing outside of the uterus. So I kind of want to go into the pre-diagnosis stage, and now we're talking back to when I was 17 and then looking at the actual how I got diagnosed and then the post-diagnosis. We'll jump back to when I was 17 and my periods were not I didn't think they were normal at the time. I was fainting, vomiting, and I was having incredibly heavy periods. And this was quite challenging at that time in my life because I was going through exams, I was in high school. Like, it's a lot for someone that age to take in. So I had went to the doctors about this to kind of speak with them and see what options there were, because I thought there must be something to fix the pain levels that I was experiencing. So they had recommended going on the microgynon pill. So straight away took that pill and no problems. And I must have been on that until I was about 22. I had no problems. My cramping was minimal. It wasn't that, I know you have sort of a side effect of being moody when you're on it or bloating. I didn't experience any of that. So when I got to 22, I just kind of thought, okay, I kind of want to come off the pill. It's just a nuisance taking it every day. I had changed to the implant in that time and then went back onto the pill because my body didn't agree with the implant. So went back to what worked before. So 22 to 24, my period came back very regular. It was always on time. I actually started doing natural cycles where I take my temperature every day, and I was able to then work out when my period was going to be, and it was such a handy tool. However, nothing to do with that app. My periods progressively got worse, so I was experiencing major cramping. Now, I'm not talking a bit of a stomach pain. I mean, I was floored, like on the ground, crying in pain sort of level. But I was able to manage it because I was working from home at the time, and I took paracetamols because I was always told just get on with it. Just take some water, some paracetamol, and you'll be fine. Hot water bottle in the tummy, and it was all good. But when I moved to London and was having to then go to work every day, I was starting to struggle a bit more. So they were progressively getting stronger. And I think after a year of being in London, I was kind of at my breaking point. So this went on for a couple of more months that I kind of thought, okay, this is not normal. And it was heavy periods as well. We get forward to January 2024, and my period doesn't come. And I've never experienced this before. Like, although my periods were bad, they were regular. So I always knew when to expect them. So my period didn't come, and I didn't really think anything of it. A week or two passed, and then I went, okay, where's my period? So I kind of thought, okay, my period will come. But I think we got to week 4 or 5, and I was meant to have had another period at this stage. So I actually contacted the doctor and rang them and just said, look, I'm quite concerned about this. I've never had it before. For those thinking, were you pregnant? I was not pregnant. But the doctor had said, first thing they had asked was, is there a chance you could be pregnant? And was 100% confident I was not pregnant. Please bear in mind, I actually went private to get this done because I had healthcare with my work. So that was actually quite a quick process. I then got sent to get an ultrasound, so both external, kind of where a woman would get an ultrasound if she was having a baby, and also an internal one. And this was just examined to make sure everything was healthy inside. And lo and behold, the day of the scan, my period comes. And I'm thinking, of course you come when I have to try and get this looked at. Still went in and got the scan done because I always had the idea in my mind of endometriosis, like, could this be why I'm experiencing the pain that I am? I asked the doctor that had been examining me, do you see anything that looks abnormal? Like, what's your feedback? Because I don't want to, like, I would ring the doctor in a week's time to have the consultation, but I just kind of wanted to know. So she had said, no, everything seems perfectly normal, because I was able to see both of my ovaries, and she said there's nothing to be worried about. And I was like, right, do you think it could be endometriosis? And this had kind of been in the back of my mind for a while because of kind of the symptoms I was experiencing, and I was told at that time, no, it couldn't be endometriosis, like everything seems fine, we would see it. And I was like, okay, this is frustrating, because you want answers, you want reasons why you're experiencing this kind of level of pain. So then have the consultation a week later with the doctor on the phone, and they said, yep, scans came back normal, but I raised the point of, is there anything I can do to kind of mellow out the pain and symptoms I'm experiencing? The doctor then said she recommended going back on the pill, but they couldn't give me the pill until I give them a blood pressure reading. So I didn't have this at hand, so then I thought, right, I'll call them back when I get this. So one bit of stress removed because the period came back, but another part of I want to know why this is going on. After that, I got my blood pressure reading submitted, and the doctor then said, yep, 100%, here's the pill. And I started the pill at the start of June this year. Yeah, that's what the direction it took for me. And that was just on my side. I took a while to sort this, even though I was the one that desperately needed it. Then in July, must have been mid-July, I started to bleed. Now, it wasn't just spotting, it was the heaviest period I'd ever had. Now, the pain that I experienced during that time was next level, and the heaviness of my flow was next level, and I was struggling. I think I got to day 4, and normally I have first 2 days are horrific, but then I can cope after. But this was like day 4, and I was struggling. I didn't know what to do. I was almost bedbound the whole time, because every time that wave of pain came, which was just a cramp in my stomach, I couldn't do anything. I just had to stop. And I don't like leaving the house when I'm experiencing that, because it's not nice when you're out in public and all of a sudden you have to go squat down, just kind of compress your stomach for, this was my method, compress my stomach for a minute or two until that passes. So I rang the doctor on the Sunday evening, private again, which is why I was able to get a Sunday appointment. And they had said, like, asked about the consistency, how heavy it was, and I had quite a lot of clotting, and I'd never had that before. And that was kind of what was the standout moment where I thought, okay, what is this? So rang the doctor, and they asked for me to take a pregnancy test, to which I said I knew I wasn't pregnant, but took the test, got the negative result, and she said, look, if it's negative or positive, she's like, ring 111 and speak to them and see what they recommend, because you may have to go to A&E. So got to the next day, rang 111 because the pain continued and was still very heavy, and they called me back and said, okay, talk me through your symptoms. So told them about the clotting, very heavy flow, a lot of cramps, feeling like I was very nauseous at the time as well. So I was not in top form. And then they had said, okay, we've taken note of your symptoms, we will ring you back. It was becoming less frequent. It was still happening and quite severe when it did. So the doctor rang me back and asked how much blood I was losing, and I gave what I believed was an accurate representation of how much. They then said, okay, you need to go to A&E ASAP. I was like, what? And they were like, please get to A&E ASAP. The closest one is the location, because they knew where I was. And they said, please go there now. They will be expecting you. My stomach dropped in that moment. I'm not great with hospitals as it is. So when that gets told to me I have to go ASAP, I panicked, which wasn't great for me having to go here. So get to A&E, a bit panicked and flustered, just got an Uber straight down, and they then put me into triage, spoke to me, asked me about my symptoms, the exact same things that I said on the phone, said to the nurse. They said, okay, no problem, just go back in the waiting area. So then get called in by, now I don't know if it was a doctor or a nurse, but I believe it was a nurse. called me in and brought me into like a private room and asked me about my symptoms, spoke through it with her, and then she said, right, we need you to take a pregnancy test. And I'm just like, I'm not pregnant, like, come on, like, just tell me what's wrong. So anyway, I do as I'm told. I take the test, give it to her, and well, take the test. I give her a urine sample, she takes the test for me. And she then reads out and goes, yep, you're not pregnant. I was like, I know. So she tells me I'm not pregnant, and then she says, right, you can go. And I'm like, what? So the nurse tells me, you can crack on, you just leave. And I was like, hold on, I was told to come here. I told the people on the phone, I told 111, I wasn't pregnant, I'm severe pain. They told me to come down here, and now you're telling me, okay, yeah, you're not pregnant, you can go. So I'm mindful of, this is not this woman's fault, but at this point I am frustrated. And she just said, if you have any further issue, ring your GP. I was like, but it was the GP doctor I rang that told me, like, the GP told me to ring 111 if it continued, 111 told me to go to A&E, A&E has told me to go back to the GP. And I'm just like, at what point does anyone look at what, like, oh, I was frustrated at this point. But thankfully, when I had my doctor's appointment on the Sunday night over the phone, they had actually said, look, I'm going to recommend you to, or refer you to a gynecologist, and we'll get you an appointment in there so that you can still get seen to by a specialist. So that was my saving grace moment, knowing that I had this still. I still had this appointment to do. So that was about a week after all of this happened. So I went home. I still thought something is still not right. Like, something really isn't right. So then I go home and just think, right, the bleeding did settle down, the cramping did settle down, but that was about a week of torture, a week of just a very unpleasant week. The gynecologist appointment comes up, and this is about a week after these events. So I go in, never been to the gynecologist before, but if you've been to a smear test, fairly similar in terms of the examination, but you don't have to get a swab taken. So when I go in, because this is private again, bear in mind, the reason why I never went NHS is because I could ring the doctor on my phone, get an appointment, speak to them that day. It was a faster process for me to get seen to. This here hospital is near to where I live. Go in, and I had my scans done in the same hospital previously. So I go in and I meet the gynecologist, and he just asks about the symptoms I've been experiencing. So I only kind of go back as far as January this year and talk through what's happened. And he's asked me questions about the symptoms. So overall, the symptoms I would have experienced would have been severe cramping, a heavy period. My whole entire period week was just not ideal. It wasn't livable. Like, being sick on my period I didn't think was normal. So then he basically says the word endometriosis, and I'm just like, excuse me? And then he says, you could potentially have it, but your symptoms aren't as severe as some of the cases that they would see. So then the gynecologist basically says, we will do an examination and just see what's going on. They couldn't see any telling symptoms, but I got offered two options. First option, continue as I was and see if the pain settles and see if the pill improves it, because I'm still on the pill at this point. Option number two, they would give me keyhole surgery and actually investigate. Now, I've never had an operation before, but this is the first time in this journey that I've ever been offered an operation to actually investigate. And as nerve-wracking as it was, I just thought, I need answers. So still the unknown here. He could operate and find nothing, or he could operate and he could find something. So I decided to go down the route of taking the keyhole surgery. And then we also talked about post-surgery, what options did I have. Now, the coil was mentioned, and he did say that he recommended it because it would kind of help reduce my symptoms for endometriosis for up to 5 years. which was kind of like, okay, well, maybe I should look into this because the pill didn't agree with my body that second time round, and I needed to try something because I couldn't go through this anymore. So because this is private, this was on a Thursday, he offered me an appointment the following Friday. And I remember sitting there like, wow, Friday? Now, I couldn't do that Friday because I was getting a flight that day, but then I was able to get booked in the following Thursday. So from 2 weeks of my appointment, I was able to come in and get seen to. Next part of this story then is the lead up to the operation, where I go in, I get bloods taken, I get my height and weight taken, and they just kind of talk through some things that will be coming up on the day, but didn't get too many details. Then I had a phone call, which they then go into a bit more detail of what to wear, what to bring, what not to do, when to stop eating, when to stop having water. So that was my opportunity to ask all my questions, like removing my piercings, what else did they say? I had to wear closed back shoes, and then roughly what time I had to be at the hospital for. So it was all going okay, but was a bit nervous about kind of the unknown, and I was told it was normal to feel a bit anxious about something like this. However, it'll be perfectly fine. It's a minor operation. It's a 45-minute procedure, and well, approximately that, depending on if they discovered anything. And then I was also given this time to think about, did I or did I not want the Mirena coil inserted while I was also unconscious, because he said this would be the easiest time to get it. Operation day comes about. I have to have a shower that morning. I then go in, I've got my hair in little braids so it's out of the way because I have quite long hair, and then get into the hospital, dropped off, and get taken up to my own private room. Now, come in, I'm like, whoa, okay, it's like a hotel room. But it was clearly a hospital. You get your own, I had my own bathroom, I had my own TV, and they had everything that I had to wear was sitting on the bed. So the nurse comes in, introduces herself, and she kind of shows me where everything is in the room, where like the button is to call them in. I then had another nurse come in and she took my lunch order, because after the operation I wouldn't be allowed to leave until I had went to the toilet and also had a meal. So that was the two criteria I had to have before going. Then another nurse comes in and she takes all my kind of measures that morning and goes through like everything of when was your last meal, my blood pressure reading, do I have any allergies that I'm aware of, did I have any piercings that weren't removed. So I actually had two in my ear that I couldn't take out, so they just taped them up. She then went through, I think, just family medical history, just for final clarification. I can barely remember, I was kind of in autopilot that morning. Then when she had left, the anaesthetist came in. So he just asked me a few questions and then asked about like, is there anything in my mouth? For me, I had a retainer in. He asked that I take it out because I'd have to have a tube put down my throat during the operation. This was the first time I was told this. And I don't know, I just wasn't expecting it, and that kind of panicked me a wee bit because I know I wasn't going to feel it, but I just panicked. And he did say I would experience some pain in my throat for the next couple of days after. So, ooh, okay. So that was a shock to the system, and I was already a bit nervous, so that probably didn't help me. And bless the lovely nurse that came in and settled me down, because I think she could see I was panicking. And they did. They came in and regularly checked up on me that morning. I think I arrived at 7:30. My operation wasn't going to be till about 9 o'clock. So I think I went down about 9:15. And then the doctor actually comes in as well, and he talks through what he's going to do and asked me, did I want the coil put in? I then decided, yes, I would take the coil and I would give it a go, because at the minute nothing's working, other things weren't working, so I had to try this one. So he just basically explained that he'd make 3 incisions, one at the belly button, didn't say where the other 2 would be, and then he would just do simple stitch up, and it'd be dissolvable stitches, so I had nothing to worry about. And then get dressed into my outfit, so we call it, my robe with dignity pants, as they're called, which is basically a mesh set of underwear that you put on to walk into the operation. But I was kind of like, they're gonna cut these off anyway, and they were like, it's just to get you there. And I was like, okay. So I put them on with my wee compression socks and like slippers. So then the nurse comes down and she's just like, are you ready to go? I'm like, whew, okay, now it's time. I actually walked down to the operation room, or like the theatre, and they put me up on the bed and they have to like undo the back of my robe. But I had put on a pressure monitor, so the robe actually stayed on me the whole operation but is lifted up for that portion of it. And the staff there were wonderful, just for making me feel at ease, and I think they could tell I was a bit panicked. So they're sort of sticking things on me to monitor me, and then the anaesthetist comes in again and says hello, chatting away, but he's very chatty, and I'm like, I know you're going to try to do something. So he actually sticks in the needle to my hand, so the drip's always in. And I'm the sort of person I like to know what's going on, but I don't like to see what's going on. So basically looking this way, hand is up here, and I'm just like, yep, okay, good to go. Now that was probably the worst bit of the whole day. Just getting it in. After it's in, you don't feel it. So they put that in, and I then look down and I see this massive needle, and I'm just like, I don't do needles at all. I'm the biggest wuss when it comes to them. So I see that and I'm just like, oh good gosh. And he's just like, don't worry, we put it straight into the drip. And I'm like, whew. And then after that, I don't remember anything. They put a blanket over me because I did say I was cold, and they were like, no worries, they wrapped me up. And then after that, lights out. Next thing I remember was waking up, and I had an oxygen mask on, and it did take me a minute or two to realise what happened. So then I remembered, oh yeah, I got an operation. So woke up, nurse comes over straight away, and I kind of in a ward with a couple of other people that had, I assume, just had an operation. Nurse comes over and asks me how I am, how do I feel, like, am I in pain? And I'm like, yes. So they give me a bit of morphine to kind of help the pain in that situation. As I'm lying in the bed, I overhear her say to the, I believe it was a gentleman that was going to wheel me back to my room, because I was in a different bed when I woke up, and she said the word endometriosis, and I was just like, excuse me? Excuse me? I was like, did you just say that they found endometriosis? And she was just like, yes, but your doctor will talk you through it. And I just cried. Like, I cried, because it was that uncertainty of, am I going to go through this and not find anything and just be back at square one, or was I going to go through this and actually get an answer? So I was very emotional about this, because I got what I wanted out of it. I got answers. So here's me lying in this bed crying, looking like a mess. She gives me a tissue, and then I get wheeled back up to my room, and at this time my boyfriend actually arrives, so I'm feeling a lot better because I've got that kind of comfort knowing that he was there. So I then get up to the room, and the nurse comes in just to make sure I'm okay, but this whole day I'm in a bit, out, in, out, like I was sleeping for most of it. They then come in and they get me some water because my throat is so dry, and I get a hot chocolate because I just wanted something warm to soothe my throat. So they also brought a coffee and biscuits for my boyfriend, so he was able to get a snack or two. So he was sitting on the chair in the room the whole time when I was sitting in the bed, or lying on the bed. And the nurse just said that, look, if you need the toilet at all, please give us a buzz. We will come in and help you, because I was connected to everything. So my arm was connected, my hand was connected, and my legs had like compression, kind of like blood pressure readings as well on my legs. So I was attached to this bed. So then the day goes on, in and out of it, and I then start to feel a bit hungry, so they bring me in my sandwich that I had ordered. And it must have took me an hour or two to eat this sandwich, because I kept falling asleep while eating it. I don't know how I didn't choke. I managed to get it all down me. I must have drank 2 litres of water as well, because they kept refilling my jug. Then they start coming in and they're like, do you need the toilet by any chance? And I'm like, no, I'm okay. And then sometimes past coming again, like, okay, everything okay? Yep, no problem. Like they were regularly in just checking up on me, but always asking did I need the bathroom, and I was like, no, I'm okay. And then I'm looking at the time and it's maybe 4 p.m. and I'm like, I should really need the toilet, but I physically didn't feel like I had to go. So then they come in and I'm like, actually, I will just try and go because I haven't been in a while. We'll just go anyway. So they disconnect me from everything, get me up, go into the bathroom, but get told they had to see, they told me not to flush. They just said they have to just check the toilet to make sure there wasn't any blood. They pre-warned me that I would have a pad on. She just said, don't throw it out either. They just want to see, had there been much blood loss. So thankfully, not much, the smallest amount of spotting was all there was. So then I was allowed to put on a pair of underwear. And I actually had a nappy under, like a puppy pad sort of nappy underneath me, which I didn't even realise. I suppose that was good for in case there was an emergency. But I actually did have to go to the toilet and I didn't know because I think I was still quite numb. So went to the toilet anyway, got back into there and she said, no problem, you passed your urine, that's all we need to know. So they left me in there, left me in the room another while. Then they came in and kind of went through like how I was feeling and they said, look, everything seems fine. I took the needle out of my hand and then said someone would be in to talk me through my medication. So another nurse came in, don't know if it was a nurse or a doctor, came in and went through all the medication I'd have to take. Certain things were daily, certain things were several times a day. They did say my body would be sore for the next few days and I was quite stiff at that time and I was only lying down. Then they went away and left me with my bag of medication. And then the doctor had also came up in this time and just talked through what he had found, but I was so out of it that I could barely remember the conversation. I just remember seeing a couple of images because they had taken some pictures and he said he only made 3 incisions, but he found most of my endometriosis was on the right side of my body, which kind of made sense because I always had a sharp pain on my right side, particularly around my ovulation day. And I never thought anything of it, but it was quite a significant pain. I just thought it was normal because I was just told to get on with the pain that I was experiencing. So then he said he'd have a follow-up appointment with me in 4 weeks' time and kind of see how I'm recovering, but everything should be fine. He said the coil was inserted and he had no problems. So I was like, okay, perfect. And then another nurse came in and said, okay, if you're happy enough, we can discharge you, but no pressure to leave the room, leave when you're ready. So that was quite reassuring to not feel rushed or pushed out of the hospital. Now, it was private, so obviously they were getting paid for that, but it was definitely worthwhile being in that. It was a nice office. It was a nice, comfortable environment that I felt at ease. I wasn't in the morning, but I was by the time of the evening. So then I get home that evening and the next day or two I am kind of needing help to get in and out of bed, to get up. For the first few days, I was genuinely sore and struggling a bit to move and I had to take it easy. I was told I could have a bath, but if I got my bandages wet, if I got my bandages wet, I'd have to replace them. So I then decided just doing like kind of a sink wash for the first 2 days. And then on the 3rd day took off the bandages, but I knew there'd be stitches underneath. So that was fine, took them off. It was a bit of a shock to the system to kind of see like what it looked like, though I couldn't actually see the scars fully. But I think it was by the Monday, I had cramps beyond belief. Now I believe that was the coil just kind of still getting used, my body getting used to the coil being there. So I kept reminding myself like this short-term pain for a long-term better outcome. And that was the only thing reassuring me because this went on for quite a while. And I was kind of like, oh, I didn't want to have a period, like I didn't want to have these pains, but I was kind of told to expect spotting and cramping for the next couple of months. So survived the 2 weeks of sick leave and get back to work, but I'm still kind of taking it easy, getting used. I would have liked to have been more active in those 2 weeks. However, I just couldn't. My body just went, nope, you're resting. So I listened to my body and kind of took it day by day. I then had my consultation. So post-operation now, I've had my sick leave period. I go in for a follow-up to the gynecologist and kind of talked through the symptoms. He didn't even examine me, he didn't have to, because I said everything was fine, but just experiencing some cramping and still some spotting. And he said, you will have that maybe up to 6 months, and he said just give it time because it is normal. Now, where are we at? We're in October. This is almost 2 months after, and my cramping has dramatically gone down. I'm still spotting, but it's manageable, and I'm giving this a chance because I need something to work at this point. So at the moment I am moving fairly well, but getting back into the gym was a bit harder because those big compound movements, my body didn't like them. It actually triggered cramping every single time. So I had to take it very light and easy in the gym and then started going on runs. So I have actually changed jobs in the midst of all this as well. So I was stressed about this. Now, I was trying to keep stress down because I found when I actually stressed, I cramped even more. So it was just kind of this cycle of doing things to avoid the cramping from happening, because when I cramped, I bled as well at the same time. So there's just a lot going on. But now, 2 months later, I feel a lot better in terms of, I think my body has accepted it. Still a bit of spotting, but it's manageable. I can get on with this, and I'm hoping that it passes in the next month or so. So if you are interested in getting the Mirena coil, just be in mind you may experience spotting and cramping for a period of time after. I know people that have had no cramping. I know people that have had them a day, and it's literally instant. As soon as that goes in the body, the cramping starts, but it stops within a week, within a day. But I was told up to 6 months to give it a chance, so that is what I'm doing. And yeah, I'm learning just what to expect. I was diagnosed with type 2 endometriosis, which you have 4 different types, and 4 being the most severe. My concern was I wouldn't be able to have kids. I'd struggle to get pregnant, and that was actually something that was worrying me quite a lot. So when I had my consultation with him, I asked the question of, am I affected for getting pregnant? Like, will I struggle in the future now because of this? And I asked when I was expecting to have kids, and I was like, I don't know, but I just want to know the options there. So the gynecologist said to me that he doesn't imagine me having any issues because I wasn't type 4, and it's typically only type 4 that would have those fertility problems related to endometriosis. But he did say, which was kind of good information to hear, because I've now been diagnosed with endometriosis, I don't have to go through the period that I've just went through to get the diagnosis. If I experience the symptoms that I've just had recently, if I start to experience those symptoms of what I had before, where I was having the severe pains, the heavy periods, I would then be automatically put into surgery, and they would straight away look at it because they know that it is endometriosis. If I was looking to have kids, now I believe with the NHS, if you try for a 2-year period, they then offer you IVF, they offer you fertility support. Whereas if you've been diagnosed with endometriosis, they offer it to you after 6 months. So that was kind of the reassuring that now I have the diagnosis, I know what support's there in the future should I need it. I would say my experience going private paid off. I'm very glad I did it in that method. I'm not entirely sure what way it works for the NHS. Based off other people's stories, I know the waiting periods are quite long within the NHS, and not everyone gets the operation offered. So if you have that opportunity to get it done private, I would. If you have health insurance, I would utilise it, because that was by far one of the best things that I've ever experienced, was going private for that particular operation. We're now learning to live with endometriosis. The coil should keep me covered for up to 5 years, for what I'm told. But yeah, so far it's been okay, but you never know what's going to happen in the next few years, so it's just taking each year as it comes and seeing how any of the symptoms may or may not develop. So if you have any questions at all about endometriosis or where I went to get my diagnosis, feel free to reach out, more than happy to share, and yeah, we're on a new journey now. And if you have taken the time to listen this long in the story, just want to say thank you, because I wanted to share this so that people are aware that the pain that they're experiencing is not normal. Like, you know your body. If something doesn't feel normal, speak up, keep pushing for answers, because I would still be suffering if I wouldn't have kept pushing the doctors to have a look at what was going on, and we're a step in the right direction. So thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week.